Through the eyes of the travelers, perception of the society in 10th to the 17th century, women and the men have traveled in the search of the work to escape from the natural disaster as the traders, merchants, and the soldiers, priests, pilgrims, or the driven by the sense of the adventure. Those who visit or come to stay in the new land invariably encounter a world that is different in the term of the landscape or the physical environment as well as the customs, language, beliefs, practice of the people. Many of them try to adapt to these differences, others, somewhat exceptional, note them carefully in the accounts and generally recording what they find unusual or remarkable. Unfortunately, we have practically no account of the travel left by the women, though we know that they traveled. The accounts that survive are often varied in the term of their subject matter. Some deal with the affairs of the courts, while the other are mainly focused on the religious issues or the architectural features and the monuments. For example, one of the most important description of the city of the Vajrayangara in the 15th century comes from Abdur Razak Samarkandi, a diplomat who came visiting from the Herat. In few cases, the traveler did not go to the distant land. For example, in the Mughal Empire, chapter 8 and the 9 will be focusing on it. Administrators sometimes traveled within the empire and recorded their observations. Some of them were interested in looking at the popular custom and the folklore and the tradition of their own land. In this chapter, we shall see how the knowledge of the past can be enriched through the consideration of the description of the social life provided by the traveler who visited the subcontinent, focusing on the account of the three men, that is Al-Bruni, who came to the Uzbekistan 11th century, in Batuta, Ibn Battuta, who came from Morocco in the northwestern Africa 14th century, and the Frenchman Franco, Francois Bernier 17th century. A coconut and a pan were the things that struck many travelers as unusual. Al-Bruni's objective. Al-Bruni described his work as a help to those who want to discuss the religious question with them, and the repertory of information to those who want to associate with them. Read the excerpts from the Al-Bruni source 5 and discuss whether his work met this objective. As these authors came from vastly different social and cultural environments, they were often more attentive to everyday activities and the practices in which were taken for granted by the indigenous writer, for whom these were routine matters not worthy of being recorded. It is this difference in the perspective that makes the account of the travelers interesting. Who did these travelers write for? As we will see, the answer to vary from one instance to the next. Al-Bruni's and the Kitab-ul-Hind. Al-Bruni and the Kitab-ul-Hind, from the Khwarizm to the Punjab. Khwarizm to the Punjab. Al-Bruni was born in 973 in Khwarizm, is in present-day Uzbekistan. Khwarizm was the important center of learning, and Al-Bruni received the best education available at the time. He was well versed with the several languages: Syriac, Arabic, Persian, Hebrew, Sanskrit. Although he did not know the Greek, he was familiar with the works of the Plato and other Greek philosophers, having read them in the Arabic translation. uh, 1017, when the Sultan Muhammad invaded Khwarizm, he took several scholars and the poet back to his capital, Ghazni. Al-Bruni was one of them. He arrived in Ghazni as a hostage but gradually developed a liking for the city, and where he spent the rest of his life until his death at the age of 70. It was in the Ghazni that Al-Bruni developed an interest in the India. This was not unusual. Sanskrit works on the astronomy, mathematics, and medicine had been translated into Arabic from the 18th century onwards. When the Punjab became a part of the Ghaznavid Empire, contacts with the local population helped create an environment of the mutual trust and understanding. Al-Bruni spends years in the company of the Brahmana priests and scholars, and the learning Sanskrit and studying religious and philosophical texts. While his illiterate itinerary is not clear, it is likely that he traveled widely in the Punjab and the parts of the northern India. Travel literature was already an accepted part of the Arabic literature by the time he wrote. The literature dealt with the land as far apart as Sahara Desert in the western to the river Volga in the north. So, translating text and sharing idea. Al-Bruni's expertise in several languages allowed him to compare the languages and translate the text. He translated several Sanskrit works, including the Patanjali work on the grammar, into the Arabic. From his Brahman friend translated the work of the Eleusinides, a Greek mathematician, into the Sanskrit. Few people in the India would have read Al-Bruni before 1500. Many other outside the India may have done so. Kitab-ul-Hind. Al-Bruni's Kitab-ul-Hind, written in Arabic, is a simple and lucid. It is voluminous text divided into the 80 chapters on the subjects such as the religion and the philosophy, festival, astronomy, alchemy, manner and the customs, social life, weights and measures, iconography, law and metrology. Generally, though not always, Al-Bruni adopted distinctive structure in each chapter, beginning with the question, following this up with the description based on the Sanskrit traditions, and concluding with the comparison with the other cultures. Some present-day scholars have argued that his this almost geometric structure, remarkable for its precision and the predictability, owed much to his mathematical orientation. Al-Bruni, who wrote Arabic, probably intended his work for the people living along the frontiers of the subcontinent. He was familiar with the translation and adaptations of Sanskrit, Pali, and Prakritic text into the Arabic. These ranged from the fables to works on the astronomy and the medicine. However, he was also critical about the ways in which these texts were written and clearly wanted to improve on them. Hindu. The term Hindu would describe Hunger. Old Persian word used c. 6th 5th centuries BCE to refer to the region east of the river Sindhu. The Arabs continued the Persian usage and called this religion Al-Hind and its people Hindi. Later the Turks referred to the people east of the Indus as Hindu and the land as Hindustan, and their language as Hindavi. None of these expressions indicated religious identity of the people. It was much later that the term developed religious connotations. Al-Bruni lived in the 21st century, which are the areas of the world where he could have been easily understood if he still knew the same language. Illustration from the 13th century Arabic manuscript showing Athanasius' statements and the poet Solon, who lived in the 6th century, once addressing his student, notice the clothes they are shown in. Are these clothes Greek or Arabian? Ibn Battuta Rihla, an early globe-trotter. Ibn Battuta's book Travels, called Rihla, written in the Arabic, provides extremely rich and interesting details about the social and the cultural life in the subcontinent of the 14th century. The Moroccan traveler was born in the Tangier into one of most respectable and educated family known for their expertise in the Islamic religion, law, and Sharia. True to the tradition of his family, Ibn Battuta received literary and scholastic education when he was quite young. Unlike most of the other members of his class, Ibn Battuta considered experience gained through the travels to be more important source of the knowledge than the books. He just loved traveling and went to far of places exploring new worlds and the peoples before he set off to the India. In 1332 and 33, he had made pilgrimage trips to the Mecca. He had already traveled extensively in the Syria, Iraq, Persia, Yemen, one and a few trading forts on the coast of East Africa. Traveling over the land through the Central Asia, Ibn Battuta reached Sindh. सेंट्रल एशिया से जब ट्रेवल कर रहा था वो सिंध पहुंचा 1333 में. He reached here about the Muhammad bin Tughlaq and the Sultan of the Delhi, and lured by his reputation as generous patron of the art and the letters, set off for Delhi, passing through the Multan and the Ak. The Sultan was impressed by his scholarship and appointed him as Qaji, or the judge in the Delhi. He remained in that position for several years until he fell out of favors and was thrown into the prison. Once the misunderstanding between him and the Sultan was cleared, he was restored to the imperial services and was ordered 1342 to proceed to the China as the Sultan envy to the Mongol ruler. With the new assignment, Ibn Battuta proceeded to the Malabar coast through the central India. From the Malabar, he went to the Maldives, where he stayed for 18 months as Qazi, but eventually decided to proceed to the Sri Lanka. He then went back once more to the Malabar coast and the Maldives before resuming his mission. He took a ship to the Sumatra and from there ship to the Chinese port town of Jetum, now known as Konchon. He traveled extensively in the China, going as far as Beijing, but did not stay for long. Deciding to return home in 1347, his account is often compared to that of the Marco Polo, who visited China and also India from his home base in the Venice in late 13th century. Ibn Battuta meticulously recorded his observation about the new culture, people, beliefs, values, etc. Traveling to the bear in the mind that the Globetrotters was traveling in the 14th century, when it was much more arduous and hazardous to travel than it is today. According to the Ibn Battuta, it took 40 days travel from the Multan to Delhi and about 55 days from Sindh to Delhi, and distance from the Daulatabad to Delhi was covered in the 40 days, while that from the Gwalior to Delhi took 10 days. A boat carrying passenger terracotta sculptures temple in the Bengal